All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I think there might be a few additional people that join us, but first off, thank you everyone for being here and joining us this evening. I know everyone's got some crazy schedules, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn a little bit more about Simpson and specifically our teacher education department. My name's Dave Williams. I'm part of the admissions staff. I'm also joined by Maddie Cano, who's also part of our admissions team. And then we've got Professor Chad Tim, and then Abby Rose, who is a current Simpson student. So they'll kind of talk a little bit more about the program, and Abby can share a little bit about her experience within the teacher education program as well. So then we'll go through a few slides. We'll give you some brief information about like the admissions process, financial aid, those types of things. And then at the end, it'll be open Q&A. So if you've got questions, save them, or you can type them into the chat box, and we'll make sure we get those addressed before we head out today. So again, thank you for being here. With that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Professor Tim to kick it off and go from there.
Thanks, Dave. My name's Chad Tim, and I'm the chair of the teacher education department at Simpson College. I'm kind of in a unique position as a professor at Simpson because I'm also a Simpson graduate. I graduated from Simpson College back in 1995. And I'm also the parent of a Simpson graduate. My oldest of four, my son Bailey, graduated from Simpson in 2019. And so when I think about my job at Simpson as a professor, I'm also thinking about my own experiences as a student at Simpson and also as a parent of a Simpson student. So my experiences with Simpson in those ways help me kind of, I think, have a deeper appreciation for just how incredible the Simpson College community is. After I graduated from Simpson College, I was a middle and high school social studies teacher in the metro area in Des Moines and West Des Moines from 1995 until 2010. And then I taught at another small college in teacher preparation as well, and had the chance to come back to Simpson in 2016, which was a dream of mine, to come back to Simpson College, to a place that had such a great influence on me. And so as I talked to you, as Abby and I talked to you about the teacher preparation program at Simpson College, I think what you'll hear from both of us is our investment in Simpson College and a passion for what Simpson can provide as it relates to teacher education. So that's me. And Abby, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Abby Rose, like Professor Tim said, and I am a senior at Simpson right now. I am originally from Colorado, so definitely not the typical Iowa student just going to Simpson. I'm majoring in elementary education, and part of that is you double major, so I'm also majoring in liberal arts studies. I am getting my endorsements in reading, language arts, English, and hopefully by the time I start to get my master's degree, I will also be getting my science endorsement. I kind of started that one a little later in the game here, so that's more of a future goal of mine. I'm involved in a lot of different things here on campus, including the education club. I've been president of that for 2 years now. And I'm also on the leadership team for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, so FCA. Last year, I was honored by getting the Outstanding Junior in Elementary Ed Award, so that was pretty exciting. And I'm also part of the Omicron Delta Kappa Honor Society. I was inducted last semester, and I'm also a work study UGA position for the education department on campus here.
Thanks, and Abby will talk a little bit more about her endorsement areas and her role with Education Club and some of the undergraduate research that she has been involved in a little bit later in the program. What I'd like to highlight here is, so in Iowa, as an example, there are 32 teacher prep programs, and Simpson is one of those 32 teacher preparation programs. And Simpson College is unique in that our teacher prep program actually has our own mission statement. And the reason that I want to point out our mission statement is because the mission statement of the teacher ed program at Simpson College really defines who we are. And as you look at that mission statement, the Simpson College Teacher Education Program nurtures empowered educational leaders who think critically, reflectively, and creatively. we're committed to teaching our students to be teachers who think critically and who are reflective practitioners. I would say that one of the most important skills for a future or current educator to have is being a reflective practitioner, being able to look at what works and what doesn't work, and being able to make adjustments and changes and really look deeply into who you are as a teacher and who you are for your students. And that's incredibly important to us. And then the second half of our mission statement, compassionately practice inclusive, equitable, and transformative education. We're a teacher prep program that is committed to inclusive, just, and equitable education. We spend a lot of time working on ourselves and in order to help us be the best we can be for our students, so that when our students go out into any classroom environment they face, they are going to be teachers who provide safe environments, just environments, and inclusive environments in the classroom. And I would, as folks look at other teacher preparation programs, because like I said, there are 31 others in Iowa, I would be interested in, or I would be asking questions about if those programs have mission statements and what is their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in 2020. What are we doing to help people become teachers that are going to make the world a better place? And that's something that we're committed to. So over the next few slides, what I'll do is I'm going to talk to you about why I think a person should choose Simpson College instead of one of those other 31 teacher prep programs. And I've taught at 2 other teacher prep programs, and my focus is going to be on why would you choose Simpson, why I think you should choose Simpson. And I'm going to go through a slide for each one of these, and Abby's going to share her experiences with many of them. But first is probably the easiest and the most obvious is our location. Because of our location, 25 minutes south of Des Moines, we have an opportunity to provide students with diverse field experiences. And that's something that we actually require. So for example, students in our program have a field experience or practicum placement, or they student teach in an urban environment because we have that access to the Des Moines metro area. Students in our program also, as a requirement of the program, have a field experience or a practicum in a rural school district and also in a suburban school district. And so not all teacher prep programs are positioned in a way that they can provide experiences in all 3 of those kinds of environments. And what we hope for our students is that because they've had an experience in an urban educational environment, and because they've had experiences in rural and suburban environments, that they are essentially prepared for anything that they might face. So along with the location of our field experiences, we also get students in the field right away. Some teacher prep programs require students to complete pre-education coursework, apply to get into the teacher education program before they can engage in any field work or practicums. And sometimes in some programs, that's not until you're a sophomore. But at Simpson, we believe that the best way for you to begin the process of thinking of yourself as a future teacher is to have experiences where you start to move around the desk from the student's perspective to the teacher's perspective. And in the fall of the first course that you take at Simpson College, you have an immediate field experience. It's not a field experience where you teach any lessons. It's an observational field experience. But our belief is that instead of having students wait until you're a sophomore or a junior before you have your first field experience, we want that first field experience to be immediate and right away. And that's really important to us. Abby, what have your field experiences been like since you've been at Simpson so far?
Yeah, so something that really stood out to me about Simpson compared to some other schools that I had looked at was you do get into the classroom within your first semester of being here. Within the first, I think, 3 weeks of being first year here, I was already at an elementary school observing and getting in some of those hours. Something that I really enjoyed about that was if you don't think education is for you, or if you are kind of on the fence, you do get that opportunity to get out there to see what it's like and being in a classroom sooner than later. So my first practicum experience, or my field experience, was my first year here, and I just was placed in a couple different classrooms on the elementary school that's really close to campus. And so I was able to just walk over there. I got to fit it into my schedule a couple hours here and there whenever it worked for me. So it definitely didn't feel like overwhelming a force that I had to do, but it was something that I could do kind of on my own time. So I didn't feel overwhelmed by getting like a bunch of hours all at once. And then by the time I was a sophomore here, I was able to spend some more hours at the high school in town just to kind of get a feel for a range of students in different ages too, which I thought was really helpful. And now in my junior and senior year, I'm preparing for student teaching by having some more of the more advanced practicum experiences where I am student teaching and starting to teach some actual lessons. So I'd say overall, one of the biggest advantages that I enjoy about our immediate field experience and then how it works into the whole program is we start with the small, you're just observing, you're taking in kind of what it's like to be in a real classroom without like one of your professors there kind of telling you what to do. And then you build on that and slowly become the one who's teaching the lessons so that by the time we are a senior, we've had already almost 4 years of time being in a classroom and being able to know kind of what we should do when we're in that situation.
Yeah, that's great, Abby. And I think what that makes me think of is how essentially what we're doing is we're scaffolding your experiences. And so we're not asking you to do too much too soon. Although some students are perhaps ready to do more early, we still believe in providing a structured environment for students to really learn how the program works. And also to discern whether or not this career is really for them. Of course, being somebody, this is my 26th year of teaching. I certainly hope that all the students in our program decide to be teachers, but I also recognize as a professor at Simpson and as a teacher of our first year seminar that teaching isn't for everybody. And so we're committed to helping folks make that decision sooner rather than later. So then we can help you move along in your journey at Simpson and really dig into what you might be passionate about and what might be the best career for you. The next item that I'd like to talk about for a little bit is how our program is structured. And our program is structured differently than other programs, and that's something that maybe is a key takeaway from Abby and I tonight, is that there are many teacher prep programs in the state of Iowa, and what we do at Simpson is different, and it's different in a way that we think is better. And one of the ways that our program is structured differently applies specifically to elementary, folks who want to teach elementary education and folks who want to teach secondary. Starting with elementary education, all of our elementary education students double major. And they double major in professional studies and elementary education and liberal studies. And the reason that all of our elementary education students double major is because when you want to be a teacher and you come to a teacher prep program like Simpson College, you have to meet college requirements, you have to meet your major requirements, and then you have to meet these state requirements over here on the side. So the state of Iowa says, this is what you have to do to be an elementary teacher. And then teacher prep programs say, well, this is how we're going to meet the state requirements. And then colleges say, regardless of whether you're an education student or not, we have college requirements for you. And so what we have done is, for example, the state of Iowa says that if you want to be an elementary educator, you have to take a certain number of history credits. And so what we have done is we have identified the history credits in our general education curriculum and encouraged our elementary ed students to take those history classes. And all of those requirements that the state has that align with what the college requires, we bundle under an umbrella, and we call that the liberal studies major. And so essentially what our students get to do at Simpson is you double major, you graduate with a double major, but the coursework required for that double major is the same exact amount of coursework as you would do otherwise. And so it's essentially a 2-for-1. You get the double major without doing double the work. And that was a decision we made about 10 or 11 years ago when we said, okay, how can we best help students get through our general education curriculum with what they need, meet their endorsement requirements, and also meet the state licensure requirements. And so all of our elementary education students will double major, and then they'll choose endorsement areas like early childhood. We have an early childhood inclusive degree, which is one of the, we're one of the few programs in the state that have a degree option where our students can be licensed to teach birth to 3 and then grades and then ages 5 to 10. So early childhood and elementary and also special education, those are all wrapped into one degree. And it's our birth to inclusive degree. It's pretty fantastic. And we encourage all of our elementary educators to have at least one endorsement, and built into our degree, the reading endorsement is pretty much built into that double major, and then students can choose others. Another way that our program is different in a way that I think is better is that all of our secondary education students major in their content area and minor in secondary education. Some teacher prep programs have you major in secondary education and then either minor in your content area or just take the required courses to earn an endorsement in your content area. We believe that majoring in your content area gives you an opportunity to deepen your content expertise in ways that helps you be a more effective teacher. There's convincing research that shows that a teacher that has an advanced degree or a deeper expertise in their content area has a more significant influence on student achievement than teachers who have advanced degrees in education. And this is important to us. So what that means for a student at Simpson is that if you want to be a social studies teacher, you would probably major in history. And the history department has 3 extra classes that you take to get the history major. And those 3 extra history classes are profoundly important. All 3 of them focus on the craft of history. They focus on teaching you to think like a historian. And then in your social studies methods class in the education program, we will take those skills you learn in your history classes and translate those into pedagogy, into instructional strategies for teaching folks how to be social studies teachers. So I would encourage you all to consider how important it would be to have a major in your content area as opposed to a minor in your content area and a major in secondary education. And then finally at Simpson, we have a K-12 physical education major and a K-12 music education major. So essentially what I've described here is the way that we approach teaching elementary educators from early childhood and preschool all the way through secondary education, and in addition to music and PE. Abby, will you remind us again, what are your endorsement areas and maybe why did you choose them?
Yeah, for sure. So my endorsement areas are reading, language arts, and English, and then I am working towards my science endorsement. I chose the reading and language arts because technically they're 2 separate ones, but you do the same amount of classes for them. So you automatically get one if you get the other one. And then for that one, a lot of my professors encourage elementary ed students to get that one just because it is super easy and really works into your schedule. You only have to take like 1 extra education class and then you pretty much have it. And so that's pretty much the reason why I got the reading and language arts one. And also a lot of my friends were doing it, so we wanted to keep taking classes together. So that's pretty much that one. And then for the English one, I've always liked English. I knew that I didn't want to do like high school English. I definitely wanted to stick with the elementary ed level. And so for the English one, it's only 2 extra classes in addition to the reading and language arts classes that you're taking. And so that one wasn't also like extra classes I had to take that would kind of burden my schedule too much where I couldn't handle it. And then with that one, it'll be nice too, because if for some reason I'm struggling to find a job or I start to get burnt out teaching the typical elementary ed, I will be able to teach K through 8 in English, since I will have that endorsement, which is kind of nice to have too, just in case I want to mix it up a little bit. And then with my science, when I came into Simpson my first year, I hated science and I was dreading taking any science classes. I always was bad at science, just really had no interest in it. And then I took a science class here my sophomore year that we need to go towards my elementary ed major. And my professor made me fall in love with science again. I ended up doing some undergrad research for him that had to do with science. And so because of him and his impact on me, I am now pursuing my science endorsement as well.
That's great, Abby. And in a little bit, I'll ask you again to talk maybe a little bit more about your undergraduate research with Professor Wilcox and Professor Cummings. Before we move on to the next slide, I do want to say that we are, I guess what I talked about in terms of elementary education and secondary education, we're incredibly transfer friendly as an institution. In fact, I'm going to show you a slide in a bit of all of the professors in the department. And one faculty member, Dr. Sharon Jensen, she actually is identified as the advisor for our transfer students. And all of our students who transfer to Simpson who have taken some education coursework will take a 1-credit course that orients you to the program, introduces you to what we call pathways, which are the various gateways that students travel through on their journey to licensure at Simpson College. And so our transfer students also double major in elementary education and liberal studies. And we work very hard to make sure that the coursework that you've taken at the community college level aligns nicely with the courses that are required in our program, and we're pretty proud of the work that we do for transfer students. And so moving on, if we have any more specific questions about transfer students, I'd be happy to answer those. The next slide focuses on some of the additional goals and I guess qualities about our program. We're like I said, we're built to help you graduate in 4 years. That's what we want for you. That's what we hope for you. We know that when students decide that they want to be teachers, they're excited, they are ready to go, and we want to help you get out there and do. We want to prepare you and we want to support you, but that is our goal for you, is that you can graduate in 4 years. We advise all of our students in the teacher education program. You will not be advised by someone outside of the department. You will always be advised by one of us. And there are 9 of us in the teacher preparation program at Simpson College. And that is not normal for a school the size of Simpson. To have 9 faculty members in an education program shows the college's commitment to our program. And it also shows how diverse we are as a faculty. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But the reason I bring that up here is because you're going to be advised by someone who is an expert in the area that you want to be a teacher. If you want to be an elementary science educator, like Abby described, Professor Jesse Wilcox is a perfect advisor for you. If you want to be an elementary or a secondary social studies teacher, then I am the perfect person to advise you. If you have a dream of being an elementary or middle school counselor at some particular point in time, we have a faculty member in our department who's a former elementary school counselor who would be the perfect person for you. Our class sizes are small. Our methods courses are capped at 15 students. And so rarely do we have methods courses where there are more than 15 students. We just believe that the smaller the class size, the more likely you are to have those one-on-one interactions with faculty members that can really help you grow and develop into the teacher that you need to be. And we're a close-knit community. We know our students, and we know the greater Des Moines metro area, and our faculty members, when we advise you, when we teach you, we're going to be the ones writing letters of recommendation for you. We're going to be the ones reaching out to local administrators that we know, advocating for you. And that's one of the advantages of a small liberal arts program like what Simpson has, is that we become invested in you, and we care about you as human beings, and we care about your success in life and not just your success in our classrooms. On the next slide, we have something that we're very proud of at Simpson. A few years ago, we started a mentoring program where we match first-year students with more experienced students in our program. Obviously, like I just said, you're going to have an advisor who is an expert and who's a faculty member and who's going to be one of your professors and so on and so forth. But we also realize that it's important for students to have support among other students. And at the end of the day, I can tell you everything you need to do to get that early, that birth to 3 inclusive degree. But to talk to another student who is taking those courses and who has already mapped out their 4-year plan and could advise you on how maybe your 4-year plan could be a little bit more efficient based on how they've worked theirs out, it's hard to really quantify how important those relationships are. And so, as I said, we are a community, we are a tight-knit community, and the mentoring program is one of the ways that we facilitate that. One more slide, and then I'm going to have Abby talk a little bit. We also encourage students to learn outside of the classroom. We have an active and engaged education club that provides tutoring opportunities and also has an annual conference. Every fall, our education club hosts a conference where we have education experts from the metro area come to campus and provide basically, it's like a professional conference. They have conference sessions where students in our program can go from session to session and learn about effective classroom management or learn about how to incorporate technology into your classroom. We also encourage our students to engage in service activities. We have a reading club that meets in our campus library after school for local elementary age students. We have undergraduate research opportunities. We have the opportunity for students to teach abroad. 2 years ago, we took education students to Finland. And in Finland, they learned about the Finnish education system, which, if you're familiar with some of the reports that have come out in the last 5 years or so, Finland is one of the top 2 countries in the world for education, especially on some international tests of math and science. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to go to Finland and see what are schools like in Finland and how can we take some of our learning back to the United States. And we have another trip planned for Finland a year from now in next May. So that'll be an exciting opportunity. Abby, what has your involvement been like outside of the classroom?
Yeah, so I am involved in a lot outside of the classroom. One of my goals in coming into college was to get involved, especially being so far away from home. I definitely wanted to find things that would keep me busy, but also go towards my major so I could make friends in my major and I could kind of establish a resume of just things that I've done that will help me out in the future. So as I mentioned earlier, I am the president of the education club. And so like Chad said, we do have tutoring opportunities. We have a conference every year, and that has been really pretty great for everyone who's come. I've heard a lot of good things, especially last year we had over 150 people come throughout the time there. We had a bunch of teachers, different first-year student teachers come and talk to us. And so that was probably one of the highlights of my whole year last year. And then along with that, the service opportunities that Chad talked about, we do the reading club after school. Obviously, kind of with COVID and everything, that came to an abrupt end last semester, but it's part of one of the classes you take as an elementary ed major. You have to do the reading class, which is during school time. And then after the elementary school time, the kiddos come over here and we do like one-on-one tutoring sessions with them, which helps us learn how to kind of interact with like a real kid instead of just teaching our fellow classmates. And so that was something that really helped me, especially when I was going into my practicum. I could kind of take what I learned from that time with just one kid and apply that to how I'm going to teach a whole group of kids. And then also the undergraduate research opportunities. I've been lucky to participate in 2 of those. The first one I started my sophomore year here, and I've been working with one of our professors, Katrina Cummings. We've been doing some research on different early childhood centers throughout Des Moines, and we've been working on a literature review and coming up with a manuscript that is promoting diversity and different cultural aspects throughout the early childhood centers in Des Moines. And so that's something that if I wasn't doing that opportunity, I would not have the experience to kind of learn more about Des Moines and the schools in Des Moines, as well as like come up with this piece of literature that hopefully one day we can submit for publication. And that's something that can even go towards my resume. And it just gives me a lot more practice with kind of the real world outside of Simpson education. And then similar to that, my work with Professor Wilcox last year was kind of a similar situation. We did some research on science curriculums throughout Des Moines, and we actually came up, me and a group of other classmates here came up with a curriculum that we are making for Des Moines about science for 2nd and 3rd grade. And then along with that, we were able to write an article, and that article we finished at the end of May and submitted it, and we heard back this summer that it will be accepted for publication. So that's kind of exciting to get an article published, and I'm not even graduated from college yet. And then I haven't had the opportunity to travel abroad, but by the time I graduate, I will have had so many other good opportunities that are outside of the classroom that I definitely feel like I'm not missing out on anything, even though I can't go to Finland or something like that too.
That's incredible. I mean, I just wanted to say how proud I am of Abby and of the other Simpson students who've done that undergraduate research with Dr. Jesse Wilcox, but also just to say how unusual it is to have that opportunity. We don't require students to do undergraduate research. It's completely voluntary, but to have faculty on our staff that are not only as engaged in scholarly work, but are willing to engage students in scholarly work, to have undergraduate students submitting articles and getting them accepted and published in science teaching journals is pretty incredible. And we're lucky to have faculty like Katrina and Jesse and others who are interested in engaging students in undergraduate research. And speaking of faculty, Dave, is the next slide, or there we go. So who are we? These are all of the folks in the teacher education program at Simpson, and I show our pictures just to show you how diverse we are, and diverse in terms of our experiences, from elementary educators. Kate Lursteth in the second row, second from the left. Kate's a former elementary school teacher. Jesse on the left is a former ninth grade science teacher. Katrina in the upper left is our early childhood and preschool expert. The faculty member next to Katrina on the top row, second from the left, is Dr. Marcy Hahn, who's a former secondary English teacher and also an administrator, so she has administrative experience. Sharon Jensen, third from the left on the top. Sharon is also a former elementary educator, and she advises all of our transfer students. And then Linda Dermelin on the upper right is our field placement coordinator, and she is our licensure officer. So Linda is the person who sometimes in a semester will identify upwards of 300 different field placements for our students, in whether it's field experience or practicum or student teaching. And then the last two folks in the second row, second from the right, is Dr. Barb Ramus, who is a former elementary educator and elementary school counselor, and then Dr. Patty Woodward Young, who also is a former elementary educator, and she also coordinates our student teachers. And then the other familiar one on the bottom. And so the next slide kind of has some statements about our faculty. So I showed you the pictures of our faculty members, but we're committed to our students. Our goal for you is that you're a highly effective teacher. And we know that teaching is a difficult profession. And I tell my students this all the time. Like I said, I've been a teacher for 26 years, and I'm the father of 4 children, one 23-year-old and then 3 teenage girls. And I'll tell you that other than trying to be a good parent, the hardest thing that I've done in my life is to try to be a good teacher. It's not easy. But other than being a parent to my 4 children, the most rewarding thing I've done in my life has been to try to be an effective teacher. And I think I could speak for my colleagues in our department when I say that our goal for you is that you are as effective as you can possibly be when you leave our program. And we're committed to helping you get to that point. As a program, we're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is always been true, but perhaps never more relevant than today. We have a lot of students that get experience in the Des Moines public school system, and the Des Moines public school system is a profoundly culturally and ethnically diverse community. And we want our students to be prepared to create classroom environments that are inclusive and that are supportive of all students. And we are structured in a way to do that. So we're passionate about teaching. We enjoy mentoring our students and advising them. I love to teach, but I'll tell you what, being an advisor is one of the favorite parts of my job, because I get to talk to my students about their goals and their hopes and their dreams, and I get to help them take steps towards achieving them. We try to model effective and high quality teaching in our classrooms. We seek to be who we say we are. If we're talking about student-centered instruction, and if we're talking about actively engaged inquiry learning, then in our classes, we try to model those by encouraging you to engage in the same kinds of learning experiences. And like I said earlier, none of our classes are taught by teaching assistants. They're all taught by full-time faculty who are experts in the field. Can you think of anything, Abby, that I have not mentioned?
Yeah, I was actually going to add on to that last slide. I think a lot of the time professors can say this and schools will say some of these statements, and then you just hear it so many times that, oh, we're such a good program, we care about our students. But I definitely know that every professor at Simpson that I have had does care for me. I've had Professor Tim a lot in classes, and I know if anything happened and I needed him within an hour, I could hear back from him. Or in the future when I'm teaching, I know if I have a question on a lesson or I just want some input or some advice that maybe teachers in my school aren't giving me, that I can reach out to any professor that I've had here and they will be more than happy to help me out. Definitely the professors here at Simpson are not just professors. I would say they're easily some of the best people I've interacted with in my time as a student, as well as working with them. They are definitely strong advisors. They guide me in all of the right directions without kind of forcing me and making sure that everything I do is by my choice, but that I know they have my back on everything I am doing. And so I definitely know that as a teacher in the future, a lot of the things that I have learned are coming from the professors here. And so I guess just like a little shout out to the professors for everything that they have done. And as a student, I can confidently say that all of these statements are true about especially the education professors, but all professors and faculty here at Simpson for sure.
All right, so with that, I think that's where I take over. So thank you, Professor Tim and Abby, for sharing a little bit more information about not only your experience as a professor, but Abby as a student. I think that's great information to have, and I hope the students that are on this call took a lot from that as well. So I'm going to go through just some general Simpson information, as well as the application process, a little bit of financial aid as well. And then again, Maddie Cano's here to answer any questions. So again, if you have questions, feel free to ask or just type them in the chat box. So these are just some facts and figures that you can look at Simpson. Some things that I think really make Simpson stand apart from other schools. And the ones I want to highlight, sorry, my 5-year-old decided to join the call. The ones that I really want to highlight is 100% of our students receive financial aid. So Simpson does a great job of making your higher education as affordable as possible. Hold on one second. Welcome to the life of COVID. Anyways, so 100% of our full-time students receive financial aid. Again, Simpson is dedicated to making it as affordable as possible without making, you break the bank for your investment of your higher education. All right, buddy, they get it. The other thing I really want to highlight is 99% of our students are have a full-time job or in grad school within 6 months of graduation. So again, I think a lot of students will always ask, or families, mom and dad typically will ask, what does Simpson do that's better than other schools? And I think that's one thing that we really do a great job of, is making sure that our students are prepared for life after college. Obviously, we want you to enjoy your experience at Simpson. We want it to be something that you look back on fondly. But again, it's a short period of time. And so we really start from day one, making sure you are ready for that next step, whether that's your career, whether that's grad school, whatever it might be. Again, I think Simpson makes sure our students are completely ready for whatever that might be. So the next steps, if you enjoyed this call and feel like Simpson could be a really good fit for you, the biggest thing, the best thing you can do is to go ahead and apply to Simpson. There's no application fee, so it's free. It's all on our website. So if you're a first-year student that's just going to be graduating high school next spring, or if you're a transfer student, again, you can all find that on our website, just simpson.edu. There's a link at the top that says apply. Just follow the directions from there. It's a pretty quick process, probably takes 15 minutes or so. And then October 1st is the very first day that you can file your FAFSA. So once you've applied and been admitted to Simpson, the next step is making sure you have your FAFSA sent in to us. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Essentially decides or determines whether or not you receive any additional money, free funding from the federal or state government. So make sure you have that in, because again, if you've been admitted and we have your FAFSA, we can really start talking about what that cost is going to look like to attend Simpson. And then we always want you to visit campus. I think that's one of the most important things you can do for any school you're considering. Simpson has an incredible campus. We're very open, very friendly. And again, once you're on campus, we can connect you with Professor Tim, with students that are within that same major that you're looking at, and really give you a little more deeper dive into what Simpson's going to be like for you as a student there. So you can set that up on our website. You can work directly with your admissions counselor, whatever it might be, reach out to us or go online and register. We can get you on campus and kind of show you around. You can also look at our events calendar, which again, there's a ton of different events. You've got additional academic meetings similar to this one that are going on, additional admissions events, which might just be more of a broad informational session about Simpson. But check those out, because there's a lot of different opportunities there, and you might find 2 or 3 more that appeal to you and what you're looking for. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the question and answer piece of this. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself, and you can just ask questions there, or you can, again, type them into the chat box. Either way works. I think the first question is always the toughest, so I'll ask that one. Abby, just talk about like your college search and what ultimately made you decide that Simpson was going to be the best fit for you, especially being from out of state.
Yeah, this is that classic question about being a college student. So my search for Simpson originally started is I was recruited to play volleyball here. And so I started talking with some of the coaches here. We set up a tour and I got to sit in on a practice, and it was the first college that I had toured. I was talking to some other coaches, kind of checking out some other schools around the area, some back home in Colorado, as well as kind of looking into the bigger state schools in Colorado. I wasn't quite sure what my direction wanted to be. And so I got Simpson first. I got here and I met with the coaches, and they were super nice. And then I actually met with Barb Ramos, one of the professors in the education department. And I automatically like fell in love with her. I remember I walked into her office and we had like a similar chair, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have this chair at my house. It reminds me of home. And then just talking to her really like established a really homey feeling, and I felt like she really cared about me and she actually was interested in having me come as a student. I kind of got that feeling that I'm not going to just be a number here, like she's going to remember my name. And then after I met with her, I went on the official campus tour, and within 5 minutes I saw the scenery, I saw the field. I was like, yeah, this is where I'm going to go to school. And so that night I called my dad because I came out here with my mom, and I was like, so I toured one school, and I know you want me to check out some other ones, but I think I'm going to apply to Simpson within like the next couple weeks. And then I did, and it's the only school I applied to. It's the only school I actually toured, and I am so happy. I cannot imagine going to any other school. This is my home, and I'm going to stay in Iowa when I graduate. Hopefully move to Des Moines and teach in Des Moines or around Des Moines, and then come back, support Simpson sports, and hopefully stay connected with Simpson until that's the end, I guess.
Thanks, Abby. Maddie, we got any questions, or anyone want to unmute themselves and jump in?
Nothing in the chat so far, but if anyone wants to ask any questions, get any clarification, now is the time. So feel free to ask. And it could be admissions related, it could be student activities related, it could be obviously academic and programming related, anything that you want to ask, feel free.
Maddie, can I make a plug for our Teacher Education Visit Day?
Absolutely.
On October 30th, right now it's planned to be in person. We're prepared to make an adjustment if necessary. But on October 30th, we have our Teacher Education Visit Day. And we've had a visit day for the Teacher Education Department for the last 2 years. And what we do is we have students who are interested in education come to Simpson. And then that day is devoted to giving you experiences to kind of let you see what it might look like to be a teacher education student at Simpson. And so we typically have a panel of students in the program that we put together. We have some mini lessons where Simpson education faculty will teach mini lessons modeling some of those best practices in instruction that we were talking about, and really allow you to get on campus and to imagine yourself at Simpson College. And so I would encourage anybody out there, either who's on the Zoom now or who might watch this in the next few weeks, to consider attending Simpson on October 30th for a Teacher Education Visit Day.
I highly recommend attending that, just because I think you'll get a lot of really cool simulations and really see again what it's like to be an actual teacher. You know, thinking about back on my college experience and going on a college visit, you know, this visit day is set up unlike any other generic, you know, program visit day. They really do a great job of, you know, kind of just getting you involved and letting you see what it really would be like. And so I highly recommend, if you're available, definitely come out for that visit day. It'd be wonderful.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Again, I appreciate everyone being here, everyone jumping on this phone call. Professor Tim, Abby, thank you very much for providing your input and your guidance on the teacher education program and your own experience with it. So thank you again for everyone. I hope you have a great night, and we hope to see everyone on campus here soon for a visit. Thank you.